Thank you, Mr. President. And I thank the Senator from Maine for her leadership in today's activity as we commemorate the Senate's action in passing the 19th Amendment and sending that to the states for ratification. It is amazing to think that it was 100 years ago today, and women in this country still did not have the right to vote. And it is the reason that even though today, Mr. President, when we think about Nashville, Tennessee, we're thinking about country music, we're thinking about bachelorette parties, we're thinking about pro sports, but let me tell you something. In the summer of 1920, Nashville, Tennessee was the focus of individuals on both sides of the debate over women's suffrage, because that summer was that final push to get the 19th Amendment ratified so that women would forever have the right to vote. And suffragists from all across the country looked to Tennessee in that last-ditch effort to pass an amendment before the 1920 presidential elections. Well, as it all came together and as everybody was coming into Nashville, and you had the red roses on one side, you had the yellow roses on the other side, and the battle was heating up, and the Tennessee House of Representatives had been called back into a special session so that they would debate this issue. Would women receive the right to vote? Would Tennessee agree to vote for ratification of the 19th Amendment? And the pro and anti supporters really flooded that city. Those that opposed enfranchisement and wearing those red roses went to extreme lengths to prevent a vote. At one point, legislators actually fled the state to prevent a quorum. They left the state so they would not have to say where they stood on the issue of women having the right to vote. But let me tell you, against those Tennessee women, against suffragists from across the country, all wearing their yellow roses, those legislators never stood a chance. You've all heard of Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, but let me introduce you to a few more of those fierce female fighters from the summer of 1920. You have Ann Dallas Dudley from Nashville, who was really quite an organizer. Abby Crawford Milton, Sue Shelton White from West Tennessee, and has been mentioned, Ida B. Wells, who was from Memphis. They're all Tennesseans who fought tirelessly on behalf of suffrage and brought the state's House of Representatives to that fateful vote on August 18, 1920. Now, the senator from Maine talked a moment earlier about a young legislator, the youngest member of the House of Representatives in the state of Tennessee. His name, Harry T. Byrne. Harry was from Nyota, Tennessee, a freshman House of Representatives member. And he switched his vote from nay to yay and broke a tie and made history. And as the senator of Maine said, he did it because of a letter written to him by his mother, who reminded him he should be a good boy and help Miss Cat, Carrie Chapman Cat, put the rat in ratification. And so he did, and so it was official. Tennessee had become the 36th and final state needed for ratification of the 19th Amendment. That journey from Seneca Falls, New York to Nashville, Tennessee was hard fought, and sometimes we don't think about how long it took. It was a 72-year journey, 72 years from the Seneca Falls Convention to that final vote in Nashville, Tennessee. And think about this. The women who started this push for women's suffrage were not alive to see it become the law of the land and become a constitutionally guaranteed right. And women who voted in that 1920 presidential election, most, were not even alive when the fight began. But the women that started that fight did it because they knew that women receiving the right to vote was a worthy fight. Today, we owe them so much gratitude, and so much gratitude for the work that they did 100 years ago today in pushing this through the U.S. Senate. And my colleague, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York, has joined me in working to pass the Women's Suffrage Centennial Commemorative Coin Act. We're doing that here in the Senate and in the House. Two of our colleagues, Representative Elise Stefanik, again from New York, and Brenda Lawrence, have introduced a companion bill. The legislation authorizes the Treasury to mint silver coins honoring the work of women suffrage activists. The coins will be issued in 2020, which also marks the centennial anniversary of the passage, the ratification of the 19th Amendment. Proceeds from sales of the coin will support the important work of the Smithsonian Institution's American Women's History Initiative. It is my hope that because of this, more young women will look to history for guidance and feel very proud about what they learn about the women suffragists, that the little girl who is following her mom into the voting booth will begin to understand and appreciate why so many women are standing in line at the poll to cast their vote, and that women who want to change things in their community or their state or their country will stop waiting for someone else to take the lead and will realize that they are empowered to do this because of actions that were taken over 100 years ago. In 1916, famed suffragist Carrie Chapman Catt, whom I mentioned earlier, stood before the National American Woman Suffrage Association, and she declared, and I quote, "The time has come to shout aloud in every city, village, and hamlet, and in tones so clear and jubilant that they will reverberate from every mountain peak and echo from shore to shore. The woman's hour has struck. Indeed, the woman's hour did strike, and shout these ladies did." Mr. President, I yield the floor.